from the Pix11 Social Media Center. She's got more than 30 years on the streets as an investigative reporter. Now, Pix11's Mary Murphy takes you deep into the world of cold cases, terrorism, America's drug crisis, and more. These are the Mary Murphy Files.
Good evening and welcome to the Mary Murphy Files on Pix11 Facebook Live. Well, I have to tell you, a lot has happened since we were here last Thursday night reporting on the murder of the reputed Gambino crime boss on Staten Island. There was a suspect arrested over the weekend. We have him smirking in court today. He was in New Jersey, Ocean County Superior Court. Anthony Camello, he's 24 years old, and look at that. He waved his hand at journalists and had MAGA signs on there, pro-Trump slogans, Make America Great Again, United We Stand. A very bizarre appearance in court. He is waiving extradition. He will be coming back at some point to Staten Island to formally be charged with the murder of the reputed Gambino boss, Frank Cali. I am here tonight with Anthony DeStefano, Newsday reporter, all-around mob expert, author. You're on your 9th book now on organized crime. And also Dave Carbone, retired NYPD homicide detective. Such a bizarre case, many twists this week. Let's show a picture of the victim, Frank Cali. You know, it was said that he was part of this 3-man team that was running the Gambino crime family. Do you think this was a traditional hit? I'll ask you first, Detective Carbone.
No, not at all. To me, it seemed way too personal than the average, than what an average hitman would actually go ahead and look at and scope out the area. And
usually
of course,
there'd be several people, there might be multiple cars. That's the mansion in Toad Hill where this happened.
Yeah, this was just too, it was just too done at a real quick pace. Something I don't think that was thought about. You know what I mean? Just went there, did his thing, shot him.
The police said he was shot 10 times, and you said even just the amount of shots said
Yeah, it's
something.
way overkill.
Overkill.
Way overkill.
So that
to me, it's more personal.
It's like emotional.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Right.
he wanted to get his point across, and he did. You know what I mean? But you know, hitmen see things completely different. It's not. It wouldn't have gone down that way. Probably wouldn't have even gone down at his home. It would have went down at a restaurant or somewhere else out in the open instead of the area where he lived. So.
Okay, Anthony DeStefano was here on Thursday night, and you did not think it was an organized mob hit.
That's correct, yeah. From the law enforcement people I talked to, I didn't think it was an organized crime. And also from the way it went down.
Yeah.
It seemed much too personal. It's also, you know, from the law enforcement people and the criminals I talked to, I had to talk to some of the organized crime figures, they indicated that they know where this guy lives. They know they could have meetings with him. He could have just disappeared if they wanted to do it. They didn't have to do it in this flamboyant sort of style.
All right, well, what I find pretty remarkable is the way the suspect acted in court today. And I want to play a little bit of video. You hear 2 words out of his mouth when the judge speaks to him. Let's play that, Andrea, when he was in court, Ocean County.
Is it true you're waiving your right for extradition? Yes, sir.
That's all we heard from Anthony Camello today. You know, I'm hearing that he may have had some drug problems, a troubled kid. What do you know about that, Anthony?
Well, I've been hearing the day he was arrested, which was Saturday, I heard from people that he was giving all kinds of statements, which were all over the lot. He was all over the place, and they really were scratching their heads trying to figure out what's true and what's not. That was an indication to the detectives that he was somewhat manic for reasons which may be drugs and maybe other emotional problems.
He may have mental health problems.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, because some people had said that he seemed a bit off.
Well, at this point, he's got to come up with some kind of defense. I mean, there is kind of like no defense, but he's going to come up, you know, with something, whether he's on drugs or he's going to play this stupid act somewhere down the line. I mean, his life is over as of, you know, the few minutes he was caught. I mean, they got him dead to rights on the homicide.
Yeah, and he had
so
the truck at his house, his parents'
over.
house in New Jersey,
Yeah.
50 miles from Staten Island. I found out today that he took the Outer Bridge crossing from Staten Island to get to New Jersey on Wednesday night, you know, shortly after the rub out.
Again, that could all be tracked. You know, the technology today is outstanding. You know what I mean? So him getting away was not, you know, it wasn't going to happen. You know what I mean? Now, like you said, he's looking for a way out of this. He's not going to say much at the hearing. He did exactly what the lawyer told him to say. You know, I'll waive it. He's got to come back. He can't even fight it. So, you know, and he'll come back and he'll have his day in court, and then I guess we'll get to hear what his excuse is going to be.
Well,
but-
you know, it was coming out today that one of his excuses was self-defense, that Callie came at him with a
Kelly
gun. Did you hear
supposedly
that,
had a gun.
Anthony?
I heard that he said that Kelly had a gun. There was no gun found on Callie when his body was found in the street, so you got to wonder what that's all about.
Right.
You know, as the detective was saying, you know, the license plate readers probably had him going over the bridge. Surveillance cameras. There's only 4 ways off of that Toad Hill area, so they probably had him on a number of surveillance cameras
Yeah.
that they could check. And it was, I think, it was pretty easy for them to track that vehicle. Because it's just a matter of, you know, tracking the technology.
Well, like you said, once he gets, you know, once they were onto him, you know, all the law enforcement comes together, and you know, they're sending out the marshals, FBI, local police. Like I said, it wouldn't take long to find him and then lock him up. So
Yeah, you mentioned that there was no gun found on Callie, but also we don't have the 9mm that apparently was used in the
No,
shooting.
we
That
don't.
has not
We
turned
have
up
not found that.
either.
Yeah.
You know, we have other pictures of the suspect. One of them is from Facebook. The other is from the jail, when he first went into jail. He looks very fresh-faced here.
He does.
Yeah, but we're hearing that he was a troubled kid, that he may even have an opioid problem, that, you know, different sources are sort of talking about drugs. This is him from the jail. So, you know, it's just sort of a remarkable story when you think that, you know, the word was out there that Callie was a very powerful man. And also a story that I reported Saturday evening from a law enforcement source is that one of the things they were looking at is whether Camelo wanted to date Callie's niece and was being prevented from doing so, if there were roadblocks put in his way. So that sort of makes it seem like a crime of passion.
well, you know, it is. You know, if he is on drugs, you know, the mob boss. Nobody wants this guy in their life, you know, in the family's life. If that's the path that he has, so. You know, why not say, listen, you know, you're not dating my niece, whatever, you know, just stay away. And sometimes people can't take no for an answer. So for him to go out and do what he did, kind of like a final thought, I don't think he really thought through what he was actually doing until maybe after it was done. And then, like you said, he went out to New Jersey. If he started talking a lot of smack, it was just his, you know, it's kind of, to me, like a defense in his own system. He's going to get caught. He's going to jail. It's over. So now, like I said,
Yeah, well, he talked before he lawyered up and was saying different things. Like
Different
Anthony
things
mentioned,
that
like
were off
one
the
thing he
wall.
was saying was like he was a wannabe gangster. Did you hear that?
I didn't hear that. I heard he was all over the lot, and that could include that I want to be a wannabe
Of course.
gangster, or that I want to, join the military. I don't know what he was saying exactly, but it's a very strange situation, and I think they're going to have to come up with some defense. Or if there's no defense, there's got to be some kind of plea to take this, make this go away.
yeah, exactly.
And
Drugs
make
is
it
not
go
a
away.
defense.
No.
So
It's not. It's
you know
not.
what I mean?
Mental illness could be,
Mm-hmm.
but you know that even then that gets more complicated.
Well, you know, people are writing, a lot of people are watching now, and they're saying he's a marked man. I mean, that's one of the things that came up. I know the New York Post had a headline, you know, he's got an X on his back.
Right.
I mean, when something like this happens, there's always that concern that the wise guys could get you in prison. In fact, who was it? Whitey Bulger got killed,
Got killed
in federal
He was
prison
transferred.
right after he was transferred
That's
to a
right,
new
that's
facility.
right.
So I
Within
guess that
minutes, actually.
within minutes, which is
But
quite
we-
astounding.
But you also have to remember, you know, any kind of violence and murder, it brings undue pressure to the mob, and it's going to have a lot more people looking at them. So, you know, this guy's going to go to jail for a long time. Listen, maybe jail's going to take its own course with this. You know, once he gets in jail, you know, they're going to segregate him for a while, but he'll go into population somewhere down the line. And, you know, listen, a lot of things happen to different people in the jail. You
Well, I
know?
have to say that on Saturday morning when it came out that this guy was under arrest, I was a little bit surprised, especially since if it was a mob hit, you know, usually those guys don't show up so quickly. But the chief of detectives, Dermot Shea, held a press conference on Saturday afternoon, and he wasn't really marrying himself to one scenario or
That's
another.
right, yeah.
So we have a little bit of the clip from Saturday when Chief Shea spoke.
And let me reiterate, this is far from over. We are at the beginning stages of this investigation. Was he acting alone? Was he acting for other people? Are there others involved? Oftentimes, the first story is not the final story.
So there you have it. Are they looking at various scenarios?
They're still looking at various scenarios. As of tonight, the last time I talked to the people at the NYPD, they're really still not sure what they have on this. So they're going to have to plumb pretty deep into this to find out if he was acting alone, if he was acting with other people, where did he get the gun, why did he go where he went after the shooting, was there any particular sort of escape plan? Doesn't seem like there was much of any escape plan, which indicates to me also that this wasn't a very organized crime kind of thing, because generally the assassins would be able to disappear, or they would be made to disappear.
Sometimes they are killed right after
Sometimes
they
they're
carry
killed.
out the act.
That's right. Remember with Joe Colombo in Columbus Circle back in 1971, I think it was, where his assassin.
Did Gene Gotti have something to do with this? That's, the late Dapper Don's brother. Gene Gotti went to jail for almost 30 years, just got out last fall, but there was speculation, maybe he felt he wasn't getting respect from Frank Cali. All right, so during the weekend, when this broke, Angel Gotti, who is the niece of Gene Gotti, she tweeted, and I retweeted her and I said, she's upset with the pundits, and she says, I hope they're going to give apologies. I mentioned that some people said Camelo had a screw loose. She goes, a screw loose? He had all screws lost. I can't wait to see all the apologies to my uncle and his grandchildren. R.I.P., rest in peace, Frank Cali. So I found that interesting. She responded to my retweet when I mentioned that there were people saying that Camelo had a screw loose, perhaps.
What can you say? I mean, it's like we had initially, when we talked about this, we both took, I think, the position that Gene Gotti just doesn't make sense.
No. He's 72 years old.
72 years old, just did the 30 years nearly for heroin. And he's out, he's free. Why would he want to risk any kind of racketeering, murder prosecution and go back to jail for the rest of his life, which isn't probably going to be very long?
Especially with a kid like this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If he planned on anything, why would you would want a professional doing this, not this kid who just went off the whim. You know what I mean? So, everybody always looks at different avenues, and the detectives are looking at every avenue. You have to.
They really have to go through the checklist.
Right. Investigations could go 6, 7 different ways until they lock it down. They're going to look at his social media, his phone. Everything's going to be done. So, once they get it lined up, this is going to take 6, 7, 8 months to really get down all the paperwork. But, right now, like I said, if you look at it, it's pretty straightforward. And not that they owe him an apology, but they shouldn't, I don't think they should have put him in the mix until they, to say something about somebody is really
It's
not right
interesting
either.
because I was at that first press conference with the chief of detectives, and he was asked by the press, Gene Gotti just got out, are you looking at, and he was very careful. He said, we're looking at all of Mr. Cali's life and
he said, we're very aware of it. We're very aware of his past.
Everything around the crime family. But he didn't come down and say
No, not at all.
specific.
Well, the cover of the New York Post this weekend said "dumb fella," because not only did he allegedly carry this out on his own with a pickup truck and a gun, but he also picked up the license plate from Mr. Cali's SUV and handed it to the victim before the victim then threw it in the car and then got shot, allegedly 10 times. Do you think he really was a dumb fella, this guy, the suspect?
Yeah, I investigated a lot of homicides, and the little things that people do, they just, on a professional level versus someone that does it on a whim, which actually, to me, this is just something that he thought about and he just decided to do. You just don't think of these things. How simple things like that will just put him away forever. I mean, you think you're doing something, and
if it's true that he touched the plate, there's going to be prints and DNA on the plate, even though they don't have a gun yet. I don't know. This is sounding like a case that is just going to cascade around this guy. I'm going to be curious to see what the defense.
Well, they're going
is.
to want to see the gun. I mean, it's kind of important. Ballistics, I'm sure. Everything's going to ballistics now to try to get matches, see if the gun was used. Where he got the gun from. I'm sure ATF is involved. Anytime, because of the mob figure that he was, you've got the feds, involved in the investigation, which gives you another whole level of investigations. Where NYPD, listen, I always thought we were top notch anyhow, but
that raises a good question, a good point. I mean, they found shell casings around, and through the DNA testing, which they do on the whim all the time now. There might be DNA on those shell casings that were straying around the street.
Right. So you don't know who he got the gun from. They're gonna look to see where if he bought it, where he bought it from, what ID he used for it. So there's a whole path that's being done right now that could lead to somebody else. Whether they're involved or not, listen, we're not going to know until all that comes forward, you know, but,
It's a
you know, I
story
guess
will
we'll
stay
see.
alive for a while.
Yes.
It's got legs, in other words.
Yeah.
There's the SUV with the prints and all that stuff. So as we wrap up, I want to once again show that first video of the suspect smirking in court this afternoon, Anthony Camello, that's Ocean County Superior Court. And Anthony DiStefano, who's here in the studio, you said that he may not come back to Staten Island tonight necessarily.
Yeah, from what I heard from the police tonight, he's not expected back tonight. It may be a day or two before we see him back in Staten Island, within the confines of that precinct, and then he'll go for his arraignment and we'll see what happens.
Well, from what I understand, there are 3 precincts on Staten Island, and they may not necessarily take him to the 122, which is within
Right.
the confines of where this event happened. They may want to keep it low-key when they bring him back.
You want
Right.
to keep him in a federal detention facility.
They
Could they do that, even though it's a state
Yeah,
case
I mean,
so
there's
far?
reciprocal arrangements.
Listen, they're going to want to keep this guy out of the limelight for a while. Like you said, it's going to be a media circus if they're going to start to bring him down. So to avoid that, they just might take him somewhere else and process him really quick and put him right into the system.
He'll
and
have
then
to go
see
to
what's.
court. He'll have to go to court.
No, that's what I'm saying. He'll go to court. He'll go right back into the system. You know what I mean? Like you said, you don't want it's a big circus. That's what it's going to be. You know, these are just nervous smirks if you see him in court. Like I said, if he would speak, you'd probably say, oh, geez, what did I do? It's over.
Well, certainly
You know what I mean?
his mugshot from jail, he didn't look too happy. He
No, of
wasn't
course
smirking
not.
in that.
No.
So
He's got a bad situation.
Oh, yeah. Like
Anything else in summing up tonight? We've pretty much discussed all the new elements in the case, I think.
Well, I want to say a chief told me at the NYPD that if we don't get this in 72 hours, this could go on for a while. Well, they got it within 72 hours in terms of the arrest, but it's still going to go on for a while because we've got this story with legs. You get the mob character who's assassinated, and there's all sorts of other speculation that'll fly around. So this is not going to go away. But,
Yeah. Show the victim one more time, Frank Cali. He was said to be part of that 3-person team
That's right.
running the family. I think, well, that's the suspect.
That's the suspect.
Yeah, that's Anthony Camello from Facebook. But Cali, in 2014, he was listed as an underboss. But in 2015, then the reports came out he was actually running the family with 2 others.
Dominic Cefalu, or Cefalu, however you pronounce it, the reputed member of this triumvirate. That's,
And he's from
working.
Sicily.
He's from Sicily. Yeah.
Right.
He's
And
known as
so-
the Baker.
The Baker, okay.
The Baker.
So then, initially we were saying, oh, is this connected to anything in Sicily? But now, what's coming out so far is that it was more localized. But of course, that could all change because, as Chief Shea said, the first story is not always the final story. And you know that we will be staying on this. And we appreciate everyone for joining us here tonight on Facebook Live. Hope you will share this show. And I have to thank Anthony DiStefano from Newsday. Also has a new book coming out this year on Gotti's Guys, right?
Gotti's Boys.
Gotti's Boys, okay. And retired NYPD detective Dave Carbone, thank you so much
Thanks for having me.
for coming in and joining us with all your perspective. Thanks to you, the viewers. Have a good night.